that make me then?
You're a policeman.
Christ. Who taught you that technique? A friggin' cheese grater?
I thought the film was absolutely fantastic. It's really nice to meet you. And personally for me, I think it's definitely up there with Trainspotting. How about for you? Where does it rank in all your film adaptations so far?
It's like kind of, it's in the top 2. So yeah, I mean, it's like, I've seen it about 5 times now, and I've watched Trainspotting a couple of times again back to back, and I find it very, very hard to separate them. You know, they're both, obviously very different films in a lot of ways, but kind of the similarities as well. You know, they're both very bold, fearless directors who have strong vision of how the books can be made into the movies. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because. Just on my Twitter feed, there's been so many people, obviously, to compare it with Trainspotting, and it's not really kind of been lacking in terms of the support for that comparison. You know, so yeah, I think it's doing very well, kind of against one of the most difficult films to do very well against, favourably. So it just feels great that somebody's been able to come along and operate at that kind of level with it.
Excellent. And the movie opens with there's a list of Scotland's great achievements, and yet the rest of the film is so dark. Do you ever worry that overseas audiences will sort of see Scotland as this drug-taking wasteland? Do you ever worry about that?
Oh, I think I've already made that happen with Trainspotting. So no, I mean, it's like, I think that I think everybody knows that sort of a country is a house of many rooms, and I think that people. Irrespective of if there's a dark film comes out of country, there's overriding things. People see Scotland about kind of scenery. I live in America now, and I know that people see it about golf, shortbread, whiskey, kind of nice scenery, the Loch Ness Monster, Sean Connery, and anything I do, you can make 100 Trainspotings and 100 Filths, and that wouldn't shake. So I think that it's important for a country, particularly a small country, to be kind of comfortable about itself and to be able to make stuff that you don't really care about what the neighbours think, because the neighbours don't really care either. They've got their own stuff to be going on with.
I mean, on a similar note, I interviewed the Scottish comic book writer Mark Miller recently.
Right.
Asked him this question. As you, John Niven, Ian Banks, why is it that Scottish writers tend to write such dark material? Is there a particular reason?
I don't know. I mean, I used to think it was just the weather, or and I don't know why that is. There is a move towards kind of not so much just darkness, but kind of dark humour as well. And finding something kind of in that. I don't know where it comes from. It's kind of, but there's also, there's a lot of dark humour in England too. And Irish humour as well. So. I think it's maybe something that comes out of these islands, yeah, it's I don't know what did Mark say about it.
He was quite interesting. He mentioned the weather as well, yeah. And there was a bit of Thatcher's reign of terror in the 80s in there as well, but which obviously affected Scotland quite a lot. But yeah, he couldn't quite put his finger on it either.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 other books you've written, Skag Boys and Porno. What's the latest on those? Particularly Porno, I read that it's happening. What stage is it at?
Well, we're trying to, we're getting to that point where, everybody wants it to happen now, but like anything, it won't happen unless there's a script. You have to have a script that blows people away, and it's like, in some ways, it's got to be a better sequel than it was an original, so you can't really, I always feel that a sequel has to be better than the original to really work, or at least kind of different or quirkier in some ways. And it's difficult to do that with Trainspotting, But, as John Bair's proved, it can be done in a way. But I think, to get these characters back and to give them a kind of a second life, a kind of middle-aged kind of sort of life. And also I think that, the whole pornography thing has changed a lot as well, since I wrote Porno. So I think we'd have to do quite substantial revisions to it. But, John Hodge and Andrew MacDonald and Danny Boyle are talented, kind of, and fearless sort of filmmakers. So if anybody can pull it off, I think that creative team can, basically. So we'll see how it pans out.
Great. One last question for you. you're obviously a big music fan and a DJ. I thought the soundtrack to Filth was fantastic. Did you have lots of interesting cover versions in there? Did you have any input into that? Did you approve?
Well, I mean, we started off, we had a whole list of, Bruce is basically a guilty pleasure as a character, so the soundtrack's a kind of guilty pleasure, basically, and he's a kind of strange character, really, because he likes kind of, he really likes soul music. That's his thing. He really, but he denies it because he's a racist. So he kind of pretends to kind of like kind of metal stuff and power ballads and all that. And he kind of, but he actually, once he sort of, and I saw him kind of in the book as that character when he melts down a bit, he gets more into the kind of soul music. So it was like to. Well, John and I were just looking, just knocking back guilty pleasures between each other and seeing which tracks we could get. And in the end, it's always opportunistic. It's which tracks you can actually afford to license without kind of breaking the budget, because they're absolutely astronomical. And obviously, when Clint came on board to compose the score, he had input into this as well, and he brought a whole different way of looking at it into the whole thing too. So it was just that. The same, very much the same process by which the Trainspotting one was. People sitting in the room and looking at the tracks that we can get to actually make it work.
Well, I thought it worked fantastic well. So,
all right, brilliant, thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Really nice to meet you.